What's up, everybody? Dave Kincaid here with a Monarch 2022 update. Here we go. Before we get going with the update, I just want to throw a quick thank you out to the companies that I endorse and that thankfully endorse me back, because without their incredible products, I'd be a crappier drummer than I am now, and my influence certainly wouldn't be where it is. So, Pearl Drums, I play Pearl Masterwork Series drums. There's nothing like it on the market. They're just top-notch incredible. Sabian cymbals, Evans drum heads, Vader drumsticks, Trick drums. I use their Bigfoot bass drum pedals, and a Heads Spinal Glide drum throne. If you've had lower back issues or surgery in your lower back like I have, the Spinal Glide is the best throne on the market. So sincerely, thank you to all those companies, because you guys really make playing music fun. All right, here we are. So it's 2022. Almost exactly a year ago, I released All the World's Pain under the title The Monarch. And to clear it up, because I've gotten a lot of questions from people, basically the band's always been called Monarch. I've always referred to it as Monarch. It's going to be Monarch from now on. The reason "the" was added was because there were some issues when we were trying to upload it to some of the music sharing sites like Apple Music and Spotify and all that. There's so many bands that already have the same name that we figured, okay, adding "the" but referring to it in silent form would at least allow us to be able to upload it and call it Monarch. From here on out, it's Monarch. I wrote most of that music over the period of about 20 years, with the exception of 2 of the tracks on there. Actually, 3 of the tracks. One of them was written at the very end, which was Seeing Through the Hate, and that was just, I had this riff in my head, and I'm like, let's do something, we'll have a few more tracks on the record. Another one is called Mundane. It's sort of a mid-tro track, and it's a piano track that I did vocals over, and the piano track was written by this incredible kid that I met years ago in Louisiana. His name's Justin Doe, and he's actually going to be making another appearance on our next album, which is awesome. So I think he and I are going to keep working together as album cycles continue, which I'm very excited about. And then finally, the third song was called Last Dose, and it was more of a ballady kind of tune, and not really heavy. I was given this rough draft of this song. It had 2 lines worth of lyrics, and I sort of turned it into this, what is on the album now. I wrote this guitar solo for it. just thought it needed this sort of dreadful but uplifting kind of vibe. And I tried it out, and you know what? I'm going to stay away from the ballads on this next album. It's traditionally a thrash melodic band, but with epic, monumental sort of progressive choruses that really try to lift up and push it over the edge. I don't want to be the radio band. If I wanted to be a radio band, the songs would be 3.5, 4 minutes long, and that would be it. We have 10-minute songs. It was self-funded by me. No record label helped me. Nobody else threw money in towards the production. I paid for everything. We made these awesome videos. Luckily, I had some financial help there from some of the other guys, but realistically, I put my all into that first album. All the World's Pain was sort of based off of my understanding of mankind killing itself off based off of all of its own fears. So we create our own fears, and therefore we kill each other out of fear. New guitar player. There's been a lot of speculation who it is. Most of you guys were right. It's Marc Rizzo. I was in Soulfly with Marc Rizzo. You know him from all kinds of bands. He's in El Nino. He is, without a doubt, hands down, the best guitar player I've ever played with in my life. Marc's playing is, you can practice, even as a drummer, a bass player, singer, whatever, you can practice until you're blue in the face for years. But only very few people are given a natural talent, and Marc has that natural talent. His ability to improv is just something it's otherworldly. Like, I would love to be able to sit there for 30 minutes and just improv into this incredible mental sonic space that he goes, because he doesn't miss a note. Like, Marc's fuck up is not something that is audible to anyone. He makes a sour note somehow work. And he's a great human being too. When he found out I needed a lead guitar player, he offered right away. He said, you know what? I love your music. I'm down. Let's do it. Let's make something awesome. So Marc is the new guitar player. The unexpected addition is going to be Tony Campos playing bass. Tony Campos doesn't need any introduction. He's a legend. He plays for Static X, Fear Factory. He's played with Ministry, Prong. He was in Soulfly with myself and Marc. I mean, Tony Campos he's a bass legend. And Marc actually mentioned, you know what, we should get Tony in on this, because the three of us had an absolute blast. What is it? 10, 11 years ago when we made the Soulfly Enslaved album. And I said, you know what? That's a really good idea. I don't want this to be looked at like any sort of super group. I mean, I'm not like some superhero or anything. I'm just a drummer. But those guys are legends. Marc has a total blank slate, blank canvas to work with. And he can do whatever he wants. And I'm sure his note selections and everything he does will be more than adequately tasty. So no worries there in the lead guitar section of the band. And Tony is a killer bass player. Tony puts in such a thunder. I mean, he is like, you know, he's a force. He's literally like a force of nature on stage.
Scream Bulgaria!
There's no obligation for these guys with me. I mean, they're my friends, they're phenomenal musicians, and I respect the fact that they're both in 48 bands apiece, and we just want to make an awesome album together. I really want to make an awesome album because it's my band, but you know, Tony said he'll play bass on the record. Amazing. Marc says he wants to be in the band. It's like, okay, no problem here. You know, so if these guys decide to stick around with me and we start playing live at the end of the year, which is kind of in the pipeline right now, that we might start playing live. I'm talking to some people about putting together the first official Monarch show by the end of the year. These guys want to come out here and play it live with me. Thank you. You know, you're more than welcome. And if they just want to be on the record, that's cool too. I mean, I have no problem making records with awesome people and awesome musicians for the rest of my life. If that's all this ever is, I'm blessed. Back in December, I decided that it was a good idea to take a walk into my wet backyard, slip, and break my right leg in 2 places. Turns out it wasn't a very good idea. But it was sort of a blessing in disguise, because breaking my leg forced me to sit on the couch for close to a month before I could even think about really walking down here and playing drums again. And I finished writing all of the pre-production songs for this next Monarch album. It's heavier than the first record by miles. You know, the crush is there, the catchiness is there, the groove is there, but I really focused on dissecting riffs because I'm a drummer. And everything, you know, drummers are notorious for sitting there and going like this. And it drives people crazy. I know it drives my wife nuts. So when I hear a rhythm in my head, I usually hear a riff that goes along with it. And what I've done for years now is hit record on my voice memos on my phone and record the riff into my phone by either humming it or tapping it or speaking it out or whatever. And I will literally sit there and go, and then I'll do a harmony and I'll give notes to it and all that. And that's how I wrote all the riffs on the first album and all the riffs on this new album now. So breaking my leg was kind of the break I needed to get to work on finishing this pre-production for the second album. What I can say about the new album is that it's dark. It's very heavy. It's full of mood and atmosphere, and I really focused on quality chorus building. I believe that, first off, the riffs give you the energy, and then there has to be some sort of hook to keep the listener and the players engaged in the music. That hook should flow naturally into a big, grandiose, sort of monumental chorus. And when I say monumental, I mean it has to progress, and it slowly builds up to the point where it's just a big explosion of beauty and it's memorable. I want choruses that are going to stick in your head and you're going to hum for the rest of the day and turn your friends on to. I'm very excited. This time around, we are going to be working with a guy named Cavalera, who is a drummer. He's going to be the engineer recording the album. And the irony behind having Kanky do it is he was Marc's drummer. When I left Soulfly, Kanky ended up going on some tours with Soulfly playing drums. So, small world, you know? But he's a great guy. He's an awesome human being. And like I said, he's a drummer. And for me personally, I've always dealt with producers and engineers who are primarily guitar players. And nothing against them. Most of them really are very good and they know their shit. But I've never worked with an engineer who's mostly a drummer. And I think being able to enter the studio with him and work on drum parts together and really polish out the finesse is going to be something extra special, at least for me. So I am super stoked to work with Kanky, and so is Mark, and so is Tony, because they all know him, they all get along with him. So that is going to be awesome. So occasionally I seek knowledge from my secret advisor. For years I've gone to this guy for advice, and he is extremely knowledgeable in regards to heavy metal. He's basically responsible for the evolution of heavy metal. So we're talking a guy who's at the pretty much the top of the food chain as far as metal's concerned. And every time he tells me this in regards to Monarch's material, it sort of hits me a little bit harder. His quote is that it's timeless metal. And that's always been my goal with this. I want to be able to create something that sounds fresh now and sounds fresh in 10 years and doesn't really have a dated sort of sound or a particular sort of like pinpoint on the timeline. In regards to mixing and mastering, there were a few names I was throwing around, and it came down to a guy named Chris Collier, who has worked on the past few Korn albums, and he did the last two Repentance albums, I believe an EP and now their new one. His mixes are warm, they're full of body, they're full of power, and I think that his sound is really going to propel, especially this new material, into sort of a stratosphere sonically that I'm not even expecting. So I'm super excited to work with all these people. Thank you very much to everyone who supported me over the past year of getting the first album out and bought CDs and drumsticks and t-shirts and all that stuff. I've received messages, I've received comments, I've received actual letters in the mail, if you believe they still do that. Just a couple weeks ago, a guy sent me an awesome letter and said that the album really touched him and moved him, and that he loved my work with Soulfly, and he sent album covers for me to sign and all that stuff, and it really makes me feel like I'm doing this for a purpose when people can relate to the emotion that I'm putting into my music. So thank you. I am so excited to be working with Marc Rizzo and Tony Campos on this album. You have no idea. To have legends like these two guys playing my music and putting in their knowledge, it's just, there's nothing that compares to that. I'm going to present something that I normally don't do. This is a pre-production clip of one of the new songs. It's actually the first song that I wrote for this album, and it's just about 1.5 minutes long. It's the very end of the song. It's actually not complete. What you're hearing is just pre-production music with me playing drums along to it. There is a beautiful vocal line that's written for this, that it's recorded, but I don't want to give it all away because this one really hits it out of the park. This is Soul Collector.